Zaxby's, indescribably good.
And welcome to the Rocky Hidalgo Show, where tonight we review the Peachtree RIdge loss and then preview the upcoming Hillgrove game at McEachern Stadium. As always, I'm Kurt Schreiner along with the head coach from Walton Rocky Hidalgo, and we are sponsored by Zaxby's with 2 locations in East Cobb. Rocky, 14-3, you jump out early in the game on Saturday, and penalties and experience and turnover, it just kind of went against you, and the Raiders ended up taking a very disappointing and difficult 23-17 loss, but there were a lot of good things that happened out there on Saturday as well.
Yeah, all in all, I think anybody, if our fans should be excited about our football team. We did a lot of good things. I think consistency, we talked about that last week, having some consistency, and we had some breakdowns here or there. I don't think we talked with the kids today about doing the little things. I think the little things got us in trouble. Right. I think our hands got outside the framework a couple times. We were in motion, with guys in motion moving toward the line of scrimmage. Some guys didn't fit properly in the run game. There were some things there that we could have done better as players and as coaches. I mean, there were some spots in the game that as coaches we probably should have done a little better job here or there, and hopefully we'll get back in and correct those things and move forward.
The Raiders jumped out 14-3. I mean, Price Wilson, especially in the first half, looked very, very strong. On the move, passing the ball extremely well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Price is a talented kid. He can really whip it around a little bit. And I think when he got protection, he threw the ball well. We had some protection breakdowns in the second half. We got confused on the offensive line a couple times. And we wish those things wouldn't have happened, and it would have given us a chance to win that game. But we'll learn from it and move on.
KK Brooks, the sophomore tailback, 22 carries, 120 yards. Not a bad start to a Walton career.
Yeah, I think KK's got a chance to be an exceptional player. We still got a couple guys that we haven't used,
right.
that we really wanted to get in the game, but we didn't find the right time. So I think you'll see some other guys over there. DJ ran the ball well when he got in as well. But KK played above his years there. He played like a seasoned veteran, and I think our fans can be really excited about the things that he's going to do in the future.
The defense didn't get pushed around, played very aggressively, played very well. Some of the conversations we had before we started recording this, you said sometimes they were almost a little bit too aggressive, but big plays, and I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but if you didn't have those 1 or 2 big plays, and there were some big ones, defense, good effort, and really not a bad performance by the defense. Yeah,
to me, this game reminded me of the years ago we lost to Stars Mill 21-10 or 21-3 in the Dome game, and defensively I think we gave up 170 yards, and 150 of it came on 3 plays.
Right.
And they went for touchdowns. This game was very similar. We did a lot of good things. We had a few mental breakdowns here or there that gave them some advantages, allowed them some creases, and they were able to take advantage of it.
When you come home from a game like that at the Dome, of course the boys are disappointed. What do you say to one on Monday, because you've got a big game coming up at 6 o'clock on Friday evening against Hillgrove?
I think we focus. Monday is all about let's fix the things that we did wrong, and then let's install and start working on the game plan. It's a teaching day for us. So one of the things we talked about is attention to detail, and our kids were very responsible. Probably had our best practice of the year today.
Good.
Because we really came out and focused on those little things, and those are the things that young teams and experienced teams struggle with. We spend so much time working on who to block and where to go that some of those details sometimes get lost. They're put on the backside because you're trying to teach them the big things. I think we're kind of getting the big things, and we can really, as coaches, start focusing on those small things. And our kids have to be mature enough and disciplined enough to really sell themselves, invest themselves in what we're doing, and focus on those things and have the attention to detail that we need. It's going to be the difference between this team being a good team and being a great team. I think we have the makings of a great team. I really do after Saturday.
One of the things about high school football, this isn't college football where, you lose your first game and half your fan base thinks the world's over. This is a lot like the NFL. Make the tournament, keep improving throughout the season. You've got a lot to build on. The region season doesn't even start for a couple of weeks.
No, and we've got 3 really great opponents, and anytime you play somebody like this, I think you look at Colquitt County. Colquitt, they played Grayson. I think they go to Hoover, and I forget who they have. They're in the same boat. They've got 3 really tough opponents. We're playing 3 teams that are probably going to be in the top 10 in the state of Georgia at some point in time this year. So we're going to have to go out there and do those little things. But the other side of this is our goal, and we talked about this today, having a big picture approach to this season. We've got a very young team, and it's an inexperienced team, so we need to make sure that we're preparing the team for region play. And to do that, we're going to have to throw some guys into the battle and just kind of see how they do and hope for the best.
All right, let's switch gears. I mean, last week is one of the things that you always learn about football coaches is we're going to learn from last week and we're going to move on because we can't change what happened on Saturday. And if you're watching this and you're a high school player playing for Rocky, you'll carry that around for the rest of your life. You always do. But McEachern, the game at McEachern against Hillgrove. Hillgrove, strong quarterback, Elijah Ironside's coach's son, great group of wide receivers. Going to be a little bit different than what you saw on this Saturday at the Dome. You're going to have a team that's going to open it up and definitely try to move the ball through the air.
Yeah, Elijah's a very good player. I've known him since, he was probably about Lily's age. For a long time, been coaching against Coach Ironside. I remember when he was just a little bitty kid.
Right.
They do a great job of getting the ball on the perimeter to their skill players, and their guys can really do something. In addition to those great wide receivers, they have an exceptional tailback, and I'm gonna tell you, he can take the ball to the house anytime. They're a very dynamic football team on offense. We're going to have to do a great job of one, assignment football, knowing where we've got to be. It's one of those things we're going to have to align and assign and do those things quickly because they're going to no huddle and try to tempo us up there. But anytime you have a guy who runs the team, that's a coach's son who's been doing it for 3 years. Elijah's a 3-year starter. That's something that you want to be concerned with.
You talk about the tempo, Rocky, and tempo is changing dramatically in the game of football, and we're going to see a little bit of it this year in the NFL with Coach Kelly going to the Eagles. But you were a defensive coordinator most of your career before you came to Coach Walton. How has tempo changed the way you have to manage your defense?
Well, we started working against it here, I guess probably about 6 or 7 years ago. We kind of recognized it was coming when we started playing North Gwinnett. North Gwinnett went no huddle, and what those guys call that are NASCAR Indy periods, where they go NASCAR Indy, where they want to speed things up. So we started on a regular basis practicing. You don't know when somebody's going to jump into a NASCAR Indy period. So we started practicing defensively an Indy period where we no huddle versus 2 offenses, and we would try to get about 12 to 13 plays in 5 minutes. So the offense we use as a conditioning period. We run an offense up there, run a play. The defense doesn't huddle. All the coaches are off the field. We don't coach anything. We don't fix alignments. We go back in and coach those things during film. And so we started working on that. That's something that we started about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I can't really not sure when we did it, but we've done that regularly to make sure that we're prepared just in case somebody jumps into it on Friday night. That our kids won't panic, because if you're not prepared for it, you will get your butt kicked.
And the kids will panic.
They panic, because the first time it happened to us, it took us 3 or 4 series to know what to do, and we were behind, and luckily we kind of came back in the game, made a game. I think we lost 21-20, but it was a huge adjustment for our kids to learn to get lined up, and you have to go about your game plan differently. When somebody does that, you kind of have to throw out a bunch of your calls and look at them and say, we just got to get something. We've got to have 3 or 4 go-to calls the kids know how to line up in and play fast. And the most important thing is they don't make a mistake and they're able to play fast.
How does it impact your ability to? I mean, you can't get players onto the field because of just the speed at which it's happening, or if you can, it's very difficult. Coach Saban talked a lot about, it's going to, with injuries and all that, but it almost seems a little bit more as though it's a bit of a return to the way some of us grew up playing football, which is you're out there for all the plays. There's not that much specialization. Is that changing again, or is it going back, or are people going to try to figure out ways to sneak guys on the field?
I'm going to tell you how guys are going to sneak guys on the field is they're going to have a guy go down with an injury. That's what they're going to do.
They're going to play soccer then.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to play soccer. Roll around, thrash around. And but that literally is what they're going to do, guys. And you see it happening in college. And as a coach, I don't blame them. The offensive guys want to sit around and complain about that, but at the end of the day, they want to speed things up. Defensively, I want to slow them down. So how do we slow them down? We lay on the ball carrier. We have a guy who limps off the field. I mean, that's just that's what's going to happen. Guys you've got to make a sub. Somebody's going to lay down. He's going to have an ankle injury, get to the sideline, and somebody's going to put Jesus hands on him. He's going to be back to normal.
Well, and we've talked about this before. I mean, to defend my son, the soccer player, but He's like, yeah, everybody else might be making fun of that guy on the ground, but the other 21 guys have been running for the last 80 minutes. They're like, thank you for that guy that went down and gave everybody a break. What can we see, or what will we still see from Hillgrove defensively?
It's going to be a little different. They're a 4-2-5 team,
Okay.
And you don't see a whole lot of teams over the last few years who've been running the 4-2 or the 4-4, however you want to look at it.
Right.
But teams that's a defense that's starting to come back. I think defense has kind of gone through 4-3, and then you went to this phase where people were running the 3-5. People are transitioning to either the 3-4 or the 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over the next few years you'll see more of that. But they're a 4-2-5 team.
Well, folks, the game is at McEachern. It's at 6 o'clock on Friday. This is the Cobb County East versus West. We know from last year you got to get there early. Traffic can be a bit of a challenge, particularly at that time of day on a Friday. It's a weekend, so you're going to want to get there a little bit early, park early, have yourself a little bit of a tailgate before you go into the stadium to see the Raiders play. We're going to take a quick break and come back after a word from our sponsor, Zaxby's, and talk to Coach Hidalgo about a couple other football things.
Zaxby's, indescribably good.
Good on defense. It doesn't matter who they lose; they're going to be good on defense. But I'll take Alabama again. I think they probably just have more talent.
Now the big game, the really big game, unless you're from Alabama, of course, is Georgia travels up to Clemson, kind of renews that old rivalry, which was a classic for many, many years in the 70s and 80s. I heard somebody say, the game's going to start at 8:30, and you better plan to stay awake till at least 1 o'clock because there's going to be a lot of points scored in this one.
The crazy thing about the first part of the year, you really
You
don't
know.
Everybody, execution is very, very tough, and just having that consistency. So there's going to be mistakes made. I'll take Georgia. I saw Georgia in the spring. Clemson's got a great football program. Saw some video of those guys doing a little Oklahoma drill.
Yeah.
It was really impressive. They got some great players over there. I saw Georgia in the spring, and they are really, really, really big and pretty. And I think that tailback they have, he looks like a centaur because he is a man on top, and he's like a horse on the bottom. His legs are so thick, his legs and butt. And he was really impressive to me. I think he is a special player. Watched him play last year. I think I'll go with the Dogs on that just because of Todd Gurley.
I'll tell you what, you look at what the Dogs are doing, and I'm not from around here, but when you play Clemson, South Carolina, and LSU in 3 of your first 4 weeks, that's a pretty stout way to start your schedule.
And the thing is you can play those 3 teams. You could be 0-3 in those games and still be one of the 5 best teams in the country.
Absolutely.
And that's what when you start with a schedule like that, and you can play great 3 times and still lose those games. So it's one of those things. But I think Georgia will win that game.
Now, one of the things that's happening in Atlanta, Rocky, is that I think Gary Stokan said it this week in the paper that their goal has been to make Atlanta the hub of college football. And you've got the games here, the Kickoff Classic games. Next year's a really big year where you've got 2 games in the Kickoff Classic. The College Football Hall of Fame opens next year in August, right before that. And we're one of the semifinal games for the championship.
Right.
What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on high school football here in Georgia, just in terms of, does it make a difference? Does it matter? What do you think about that as a head coach of one of the top teams in the state?
I don't know how it affects high school games. I just know, to me, Atlanta doesn't have to be made the center of college football. It is the center of college football.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you look at the access that you have to so many great environments to go watch football, you've got Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Clemson, within driving distance, in day trips, you can just run over and see a game. They don't need any more games in the city to make it the hub, but I do think it's great to come in here. I think the city of Atlanta is a great environment to come play, obviously with the Georgia Dome and then the new stadium they're going to build is going to be really cool. But I think you'll see those, continue to see that built, and hopefully that, one day, depending on where we go with the championship game, the Chick-fil-A becomes more and more important bowl, and that maybe one day we get the national championship game here.
Well, new stadium, it's definitely a possibility.
There you go.
It definitely is. Bob McLeod, our producer and owner, is flashing his iPad skills to us, and he says we need to pick the Ole Miss Vandy game. I think that it's an interesting situation because I don't think a lot of people thought that the Vandy coach would be back after the season he had, and Vandy's kind of pushing their chips into the middle and saying we're all in.
Yeah, he's done a great job there.
Yeah.
The thing that he's done there, and Coach Johnson, I've known Coach Johnson, the previous head coach there, I think is a great man. He was a really good football coach. But I think what Coach Franklin and his staff has done, they've been able to recruit against the best teams in the Southeast and win a few of those battles. He's brought in some he's made some significant strides in improving their talent. The other thing they've been able to do is they've got such excitement amongst their players, and obviously with Kyle Westman and Richard Kent, who played there, and Kyle playing there. Man, they are so excited about football season because they feel like they have a chance to compete against anyone. Long term, are they going to beat the Georgias and Alabamas and LSUs and Floridas? It's tough. It's tough.
Right.
For anybody, for Mississippi State, for Ole Miss, any of those things. But they've done such a great job there of getting people excited, getting their players excited, and giving them the opportunity to win. A lot of times in the past, they would come in and they were just so outgunned, they didn't have a chance. Now they have a chance. And I'll say something about those guys. They play great defense. And when you play great defense, it gives you an opportunity to win. And they're still looking for those skill players, get those skills. As they improve their skill players on offense, they're going to get closer and closer to competing with anybody.
And then the last game, or the first game really, is the game on Thursday night where North Carolina plays South Carolina. Mr. Clowney has perhaps his coronation as that all starts, but he's probably guaranteed to be the #1 pick next year in the NFL draft. I heard somebody say that I sure am glad I'm not the mother of the North Carolina quarterback.
I would roll away from him as far as possible. I'd have a quarterback sprint out, and even then he'd just run him down. Yeah, South Carolina is what Spurrier's done there. I mean, he's consistently put them into being one of the top teams in the country, and they've just been real close against the Georgias of the world, the Floridas of the world. They've been real close to getting in here and playing in the SEC championship, and a lot of people think this might be the year for them. I think I'll go with South Carolina. I'll go SEC across the board for most of those games, and I think South Carolina's got a couple of good quarterbacks coming back, and they've consistently been good on defense. So I think they'll win that game.
And it's at South Carolina, which is a very difficult place to play. I know the Bulldogs remember that from last year and recovered to have that great season they did. If you're a Georgia Tech fan, we're not going to talk about the Elon Georgia Tech game because those Elon people are near and dear to my heart. And after 5 years of knowing them, we're not going to talk about that. And you play, Miami or somebody, will pick your game then. But until then, this has been the Rocky Hidalgo Show. We've got Hillgrove on Friday night. Remember, leave early. Holiday weekend Friday, West Cobb, tough to park. Get there early, have a little bit of a tailgate, go watch the Raiders take on Hillgrove. We'll see you next week. Once again, this is the Rocky Hidalgo Show, sponsored by Zaxby's.